An alleged killer, motivated by his own political beliefs, took the life of someone who was voicing theirs. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson is now in custody in Utah. His time on the run lasted 33 hours. Law enforcement says it was his family who turned him in. He allegedly left behind key pieces of evidence, including inscriptions on bullet casings that allegedly show his motivation, and also that he was someone who spent a lot of time in some twisted corners of the internet. Let's break down what those inscriptions mean and how they could impact his legal case. We're on the case. Presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Now that we know that law enforcement say 22-year-old Tyler Robinson is the person responsible for shooting and killing conservative influencer Charlie Kirk, we are learning a lot about Robinson's background, and specifically that he is a young man who spent a lot of time on the internet. So here's some of the other things we know about Robinson before I get into those inscriptions and what they mean. Robinson lived with his family in southwestern Utah, more than 3 hours away from the campus of Utah Valley University, where the shooting took place. We have video from outside his family home and the gray Dodge Challenger that authorities say he drove to the shooting and escaped with, still parked outside. Police say it was his parents who saw the person of interest images that the FBI put out, and they realized that Tyler Robinson, their son, may be the killer. His family confronted him and turned him over to law enforcement. According to Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, Tyler Robinson in some ways confessed, or at least inferred, that he was the person responsible when speaking to his dad. His dad also then called a youth pastor who helped take Tyler to a police station so he could face charges for what he allegedly did. Now let's get to the case against Tyler Robinson. Law enforcement says that he arrived on the campus of UVU before noon September 10th. Then he fired one shot from the top of a building roughly 200 yards away from Charlie Kirk about a half hour later. Then he escaped, jumping off of a building, running to a wooded area, leaving behind the rifle he allegedly used in the attack, and driving in that Dodge Challenger back to southwestern Utah. This is the video that was released of now who we believe to be Robinson jumping from that building and running away. The rifle that was found, this bolt-action high-powered rifle that had a scope, was wrapped in a towel left in a bush. Investigators say inscriptions were engraved on the casings found with the rifle. Here's how they were described by Utah Governor Spencer Cox.
So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, capital OWO, what's this?" ? Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist!" ! Catch! Up arrow symbol, right arrow and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO."
This is a lot to take in and understand, but let me try to break it down for you because for me it was a lot to take in as well. So the first one is notices bulge, OWO, what's this? Now this is a reference to a meme on the internet, and the account Know Your Meme on X put this out saying that this was the original post that this reference is known for that then went viral, and this group Know Your Meme explained what it actually means. Now for our purposes, I'll say this. It is used on the internet to troll people and make fun of people, part of the furry and anime community, and also for our purposes, this just really shows that Robinson was into the deep corners of the internet and spent a lot of time online. Now the next casing allegedly read, "Hey fascist, catch this," and it was followed with an up arrow symbol, a right arrow symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. Now those arrows could be associated to a video game. It's what you would reportedly use to have some sort of combination in a game that's called Helldivers 2, which is a third-person shooter video game that was released last year. And again, this is another example that Tyler Robinson just spent a lot of time online and glued to screens. Another unfired casing reportedly said something that plays into the politics potentially behind this motivation. Oh, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao, Ciao. Those are lyrics to a song that was sung by members of the Italian resistance who fought against occupying Nazi forces during World War II. In the United States, it's become a rallying cry for anti-fascist groups, which often sing that song during protests. Now, the last unfired casing allegedly read, "If you read this, you are gay. LMAO. These casings are key pieces of evidence in proving that this was an alleged politically motivated attack beyond the fact that Charlie Kirk was a political figure speaking at a political event. Now, speaking of internet activity, investigators also say during this investigation, they found Robinson's roommate, who said that Tyler made a joke on the platform Discord and he showed the messages to members of law enforcement. The affidavit reads that Tyler allegedly stated that he needed to, quote, retrieve a rifle from drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits. Here's what the governor said about how they tracked Tyler Robinson down.
On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger.
All right, joining us now is retired Homicide Sergeant Troy Hillman. Thank you for taking the time to be with us on Law and Crime. As we're learning more now about Tyler Robinson, the suspect accused of killing Charlie Kirk. You have profiled killers in your career. What stands out to you about Tyler Robinson?
I think somebody obviously with a political agenda and obviously not concerned about getting caught. It seemed like he definitely wanted to send a message.
Yeah, especially let's go over some of the engravings because I was able to kind of comprehend the Bella Ciao references related to World War II, and then that's something that we've heard a little bit more of in recent years during protests. But some of the other these seem like very deep internet references. What stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, there were some references to the subculture, the furries, and there was a reference to a video game, I believe it was Helldiver.
Yeah.
And then it spoke of a younger person to me when I first saw those things, and to include although Bella Ciao was a little bit of a timeless reference.
Yeah, and I think there's a comparison people are drawing to Luigi Mangione because you have the engravings on bullets, and he allegedly engraved bullets with his motive. In that case, very somewhat different situation. But as a profiler, when you see someone, I mean, what makes the type of person who not only would do this, but didn't seem to be afraid that they would get caught and face the consequences for this?
I think this person was so, and again, I'm not a profiler. I spent 24 years in investigations, and we did work closely with profilers, chasing serial killers and homicide suspects. But somebody like this, I think, is just so driven in their mind and justified that I guess the word radicalized comes to mind. They don't really worry about, I don't think, of getting caught. So they just want to send a message. But I'm always cautious to say, hey, let's not, this could be these clues left by said person could let's not jump on them and jump to conclusions, because they could be throwing us off, trying to steer us in another direction. So it's always you need to keep an open mind. But subsequently, they've arrested this individual, and information is starting to come out on his background.
When you look at how this played out, and he was able to, for 33 hours, be at large and made it to southwestern Utah, back to his family's house. What type of planning does it take to put together this type of attack, where then also he has the engravings on the bullets, he leaves the rifle, and still is able to get away? What sticks out to you about how he allegedly went about this?
Well, I think in these large groups, in these kind of large venues, it's especially outdoor venues, it's very security is a tough assignment, and if there's not enough planning and that kind of thing that goes into it on the front end. So I'm not saying it's easy for a person to get in there, but somebody can very easily blend in. People are so focused on kind of the event and what's going on. And then maybe even their phones and technology these days, they're so focused on that that they're not going to pay attention or report suspicious behavior. So he obviously, it sounds like he was into video games. There's a lot of things that you can absorb off those video games about engaging in combat, that kind of thing. I'm not saying it's training of a sorts, but it gets in the mindset, I think. And I'm not saying, I don't know enough about him to say he was a gamer, but certainly the clue that was left on one of the casings indicated that he may have been into gaming. And I'm not putting down gamers, but I'm just saying there could be stuff that they learn on there, and he could have used some of that. I think it was an organized attack, and I think he was very much, again, radicalized and was going to do this. And the fact that he was able to get away, it's chaos in those moments of this, like I said, this large venue, and people running, people screaming, and first responders kind of rushing to the scene to aid the victim, and then to make sure there are no other victims. They're not always looking for the suspect.
And I know that just from reading the police affidavit today and how the governor of Utah mentioned it, they said, he really became political in recent years. And it seems like there's a lot of work still to be done to figure out, because there's such a difference between, they were really into politics and they went to protests and maybe they even said some really mean stuff online, to being allegedly on a building, firing a shot and killing somebody like he allegedly did. How do you go about now figuring out where it goes from, okay, he's really passionate about his politics, to this is someone who has been radicalized to an extremist level that we do see not just in a case like this, but in a lot of cases we see people get radicalized for a lot of different beliefs. How do you figure out how this happens?
I think you use some old-fashioned police work. You put boots on the ground and you start interviewing family, friends, schoolmates, colleagues, and you really dig into their background and try to flush out what they're thinking and what they're getting at. I think also you look at the social media, you look at what's on his cell phone, what's on his computers, and you kind of get an idea of what sites he was going to and what kind of was going on in his mind at that time. So I think that would paint a much broader picture of what's going on. The arrest is just kind of the start, and then there's a whole bunch of work that goes on before it actually goes to trial.
'Cause I also think of, we probably take for granted when it's, hey, we're analyzing someone's social media and police say that and they're able to pull information maybe from Meta or some of these other companies. I know he was on Discord, which seems to come up a lot in these situations. How much work does it take? What does that work really look like if we're talking years trying to figure out exactly how he found the motivation to allegedly do this?
It's a massive undertaking, and of a lot of different types of investigators being involved and looking at the hard drives, looking at the cell phone data, looking at again the interviewing side. It definitely will take years.
Yeah, because you think of every single post someone said across every single platform for however many years that they feel like he became political. That's just such a big question. Discord, which is very popular with young people. They use it a lot, but it also seems to come up in cases of extremism on every side of the political aisle. What stands out to you, just as someone who has investigated cases about that particular platform?
And I don't know a lot about that. That has emerged since, so I retired in about 3 or 4 years ago, but it has become a big platform. So all I would say is it just seems like there's a lot more social media driven hate kind of rhetoric and conversations that are going on in our society, and it's kind of alarming.
You see the narrative that's been laid out that his family saw the picture that everybody has seen of the man with the hat on and the sunglasses, and they have this moment where they realize that their son may be the person who did this, and then he apparently confessed in some way to them that he committed this crime. From the investigator's standpoint, knowing that he has confessed to his parents, how does that factor into this investigation, the interviews you do with the suspect? What does that mean to how this could go forward?
It could go several ways. The parents could, which might be natural, to rally around their son to protect him, and then, or they could go another direction, which would be, hey, let's do the right thing, and let's cooperate with authorities and give over information and do what we can, and kind of, for lack of a better word, to kind of take the high road and say, hey, yeah, our boy did this, and where it appears that he did it, and let's work. So it could go both ways. And it does make it difficult for the investigators to try to, it's a difficult situation because the parents aren't the ones who pulled the trigger, but they know a lot and have been around this individual for the majority of his life.
Right, and I think too, I mean, the pain certainly on Charlie Kirk's family, but you think of this young man's family and what it took to make the decision to say, hey, we're going to make sure that he goes to the police station and he is going to be at least investigated for this, but now at this point going to face charges and repercussions for what he allegedly did to Charlie Kirk. I think it was 33 hours from the moment that Kirk was killed to this arrest being made. That's probably another thing that we often take for granted is what it takes to actually have this type of situation and find a suspect. What stands out to you about how they were able to track this person down?
I think there's a tremendous amount, and you alluded to it, of pressure on investigators there's all this information that's blasted out, and there's a lot of information coming in. So I think, they go through this massive pressure to try to find this individual. And to be honest, that's all I know about. I don't know all the details about the exact apprehension.
In general, when you look at these cases, because for me, like there's a political motivation allegedly behind all this, but then it's these young people, and it's the internet activity that also seems to factor into this. Has that been something throughout your career where you just see kind of this age group in a place that maybe previous generations hadn't had it, where it just seems like very often we're talking about, and I may be wrong, just people who are 22 years old, very much online, and they end up being responsible for something like this?
Yeah, it definitely emerged as kind of, I walked through my career, I saw technology really blooming, but it is disturbing to see how captivated these generations are by their phones, and they almost live in a world inside of their phone, so to speak. And that is problematic because we as human beings, I think, need that social interaction. And also, I think that also contributes, and again, I'm not a psychologist, but the radicalization of these, in particular, these younger males, it is disturbing.
Yeah, incredibly disturbing, and fortunately in this case, they have the person they say is responsible. We'll see how the legal process plays out. Troy, I know you have a new book out that really important read for people. What do people need to know?
It's called Chasing Down the Zombie Hunter. My team and I spent about 3.5 years looking for a serial killer. He also left clues at the scene, and we became kind of captivated by that. And ultimately, in 2014, we used a genealogist who helped us really unravel the case and find the killer. And he was known as the zombie hunter. He was hiding in plain sight. And it's, I think it speaks to why cold cases matter and why we need dedicated individuals sticking on those cases.
Yeah, that's a very, very important read. You know, fortunately, as we continue to talk about this Charlie Kirk case, this isn't one that went cold. But obviously for so many other, families, cases do go cold. So it's really important that that work is done. Troy Hillman, it's always great to have you on Law and Crime. I know it's been a very busy week, a tough week for a lot of people. Thanks for helping us kind of get some context on this investigation, how it all went down.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I appreciate you.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.